Sarah, yeah, awesome to have you here. And I know that you're doing amazing things around video. This is Sarah Dilorenzo, by the way, spoke at Kickstart 2020. Sarah, it was awesome to have you there sharing your insights around health, vitality, and so on. You've obviously had a change in the way you're operating your clinic and so on as you've gone online and Zoom appointments and so on. We're going to tune in around the whole video message. Why? Because a lot of our clients have moved from a face-to-face in a traditional way to either a video message or literally like we are here right now on a Zoom. So yeah, what sort of things do people ask you around video?
So thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be sharing this with you. Thank you again for having me at Kickstart 2020. I absolutely loved it. Look, lots of people ask me questions all the time about about presenting, and they ask me about the camera. They ask me, people are very interested about the element of being live, and I can understand that live element also being not only for a national TV show, but also being for conferencing, for people who are doing presentations on conferences. And so a lot of people are really interested to know the back end of it. And I always say to people, look, I've kind of got a rule with different things. Like, first of all, when I started presenting, it's really important to, as a presenter, you've got to be passionate with what you're talking about, for starters, or interested. But this can also be interpreted very differently in a workplace situation. But I always think if you're going to be going live on video or doing anything on video, you really need to know your content 24 hours before. You need to be comfortable before you go to bed. If you wake up in the morning, like if I was to wake up in the morning and go out to Channel 7 on a national TV show with three big cameras, producers, and everyone looking at me, and I've got to give a nutritional medicine information to the general public, and I didn't know anything until that day of, and I don't have a teleprompter. I'm there actually presenting. So people often say to me, do you have a teleprompter? If I do a commercial, if I've done other video, yes, I have for different brands where they've wanted particular content to be delivered in a different way, or it's been a long clip of information.
Yeah.
But first of all, you have to know what you're talking about the night before. So always, I think the biggest thing is knowing content.
So just on that point, I use a lot of mind maps. So,
I love mind maps. They're fantastic.
So I'm doing a morning kind of a thing on doing a Facebook Live.
Yes.
As well as this was for a session I did with leaders. And there's my mind map.
I love mind maps. I do them all the time. They're just brilliant.
Yeah. So guys, with this, a mind map, we might do a complete other session around mind mapping, is you put the central theme in here. This is for leaders. And then around here, there was, here are the major themes and major points to cover off on. And then I put the sort of breakout little key points. And believe it or not, I've got Sarah at home one of these little gadgets. This is what I use for zing.
Yeah.
I like this one particularly because it's got the ability to do, let me bring it up, in a Facebook Live that way.
Yeah, fantastic horizontal. Yeah.
Also, it can switch around and do a
yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, there's so much there. There is a great amount of equipment for that kind of stuff, and lighting as well.
Yeah. Well, lighting is super important. And see this little, I've got a dot of blue tack there.
Yes.
So what I do is I put that.
Oh, that's your teleprompter.
Yes. Yeah. It's sort of like a little prompter.
Yeah. Great idea. Fantastic.
Walk through and cover it, and it's close enough that it doesn't look. You know how some people go.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Whereas it's sort of like do chat and do a quick check-in.
Mind maps are fantastic. I do that with my patients. So when I get a patient, I put the patient in the center, and then I do it out. And I'll often do little emojis for different things, and I branch out or everything about the different elements of their health and wellness.
Yeah.
And then what I want to correct, and then it starts, and then that will branch off like it does into some more things. But mind maps are fantastic. And I've been doing them for about 7 years now with my clinic after each consultation, just to see, and then because it's great for brainstorming, and it's very comprehensive.
Yeah, agreed. The other thing is, guys, I've actually got a decent size, a decent light coming at me.
Lights.
So my eyes are quite deep set.
Yes.
So if I didn't have that, there'd be a fair bit of darkness there. So I've got light coming in from outside there, and then I've got a light just over here for that.
There's those big ring lights as well. There's a lot of great stuff out there to have a look at, and having a chat to someone who's great in lighting, just to show you, where how it all fits is. I think
the other thing I've seen with lighting is I've seen a lot of people who have got a lot of light behind them, so their face is really dark.
Oh,
and,
right.
As simple as that is, it's sort of like rookie mistake 101 around being able to have a great video kind of conversation and connection.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important. If you are going to be doing a lot of it, that kind of thing is super important. I've been getting rid of my dark eyes with makeup. I'm doing it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah. Now, I'd like your opinion on this.
Yes.
Live can put more pressure on people, okay?
Yeah, definitely.
For some people it doesn't. It goes, okay, it means I've done. I can't go back and redo it, but I like that. We're seeing that people are now going to be doing this kind of conversation with vendors, this conversation with their sellers, with their buyers, with landlords and with tenants. And the ability to get really good at this, this effectively is live.
Yes.
But there's not a pressure feel with this because you and I are just having a chat around it.
Of course, yeah.
What's neat about this is are you talking to a camera? Are you imagining someone on the other end, on the other side of that? How do you have that sort of super connected conversation with people?
I truly believe, and I mean, it's the same as live TV. So if I was to go out there before presenting and they'd say, and here's Sarah Dilorenzo, good morning, Sarah. And if I was to actually in that moment go, the whole country's looking at me, I now need to do a presentation to the entire country, I would probably turn into a deer in the headlights. So in my own mind, before I start anything, I always make sure my breathing is before I do anything, I just make sure I've got a nice even breath by breathing in for 4 and out for 8. And I start like that. But with you now, and I do this the same with, don't you find in for 4, out for 8 just kind of does a balance?
Right.
Yeah, it's a little strategy I do when they'll say, here's Sarah Dilorenzo, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good morning. And I find it just says something about that breath that it almost releases a bit of serotonin or something. I do also find when I'm speaking that, and I have practiced a little, I mean, obviously I've been doing this for a while, so I have practiced a lot, but I do also find that for you and I now, and for me and live TV, unless I'm doing a proper structured commercial, I'm having a conversation with you. Same as I'm having a conversation with a presenter, with a host at Channel 7. Yeah. I will not even in my mind, even acknowledge the camera. Right now, I'm looking at you, and even though I'm above you, I'm looking directly at you because I'm engaged with you. And if it becomes too staged or truncated if I was to sit here and sort of, unless I'm actually presenting to you, I feel there's more of a natural flow. But even I always just, at the end of the day, Michael, we're all humans. We're all doing our best. And I do find it easier to talk and smile when I'm talking. I find that when I actually talk with a smile, I find information comes out easier. So if I start talking like this and I just talk as a presenter, I find that I don't get it. But I find that if I actually talk smiling, I tend to deliver information better. As soon as I start to lose it a bit on the telly and I'm started talking, as soon as and it's because when we change our facial muscular structure, I wonder, and I'm yet to evidence-base this, but I feel that it releases a bit of serotonin because you relax a bit. So if you say a sentence, and so I always find that that's a kind of that's one of my little things I do. And another thing I like doing when I'm delivering, I always think it's very important when you're delivering information for someone who's doing a Zoom conference. I truly believe that, yes, there is the arena for a conversation like you and I. Yeah. But I think that it's very important not to waffle because you will lose people with waffle. Yeah. I feel that you should always have a point. And I actually find when I want to remember things, because I practice everything and I'll practice everything 20 or 30 times. I'm making sure I'm getting it right. But when I practice something and I want to deliver a point, if I actually deliver a point like that, and I'll go, so today we're talking about vitamin D deficiency, and I find, and then what are some symptoms of vitamin D deficiency? Hair loss, fatigue, weight gain, depression. So I kind of find it easier when I to remember points with my arms. It's an interesting thing. Like if I coordinate my arms and I always think point, back, 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 point, back, back, back. I don't like waffle. If someone waffles to me, I'll go, I feel like a cup of tea.
So Sarah, what you're saying there is point, evidence, 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 point, evidence, evidence. Yeah. Now, an old marketing strategy that I really, really like, and it's coming back into video in a major way, and that is AIDA, which is attention, interest, desire, action.
Yeah.
So really what you're doing is okay, attention, vitamin D deficiency. The impact it can have is this, this, and this. Attention, and that's interest, okay?
Yeah.
I desire now to actually tune in and listen to what you've got to say, and then, oh, okay, you're going to give me 3 action points. So, action point number 1 is get out and get some sun. Action point number 2 is this. So this is a great framework for people to take away with them. Now, if they're not on Zoom, but they're actually doing this sort of like a video that might be posted on Facebook or on YouTube as to a market update. One of the tips, and I do this when I'm doing videos for my clients, I'd like to get your feedback on this, is I imagine Sarah on the other side of that. So I'm talking with Sarah, not to Sarah, with Sarah in that particular, even though I'm looking at the actual camera, I'm actually now having a conversation with you. So, and clearly I don't use your name, Sarah, but I imagine you're there, or if I'm talking with a group of people, I imagine a team is there. Is that a good strategy?
I think that's a great strategy, because what it will do is it will create more of a flow to you. If it depends how you want to deliver it, but I think you're going to engage people more if you are more natural. But then I think it really depends on what information you're trying to give. And it depends on if you're working with brands or not. But if you're just trying to educate people about real estate, or if I'm trying to educate, I would always kind of think of, I'm aware of the listener, definitely, and I'm very aware of less is more. I think that concept of being more direct and following up. Like when I started presenting, I remember in the beginning just having a little bit more of a free flow conversation. But I do now know that I'm very definite in my presentations now of, as I've said, engaging interest and backing it up with evidence. So people kind of like a bit more of a snap now. People want things quicker now. I think you've got to remember, Michael, I think there's between 3 and 7 seconds and you'll lose someone's interest. If I go through IGTV and someone hasn't got me in the first 3 seconds, and it's called the hook. So you've got to, even though there is imagining someone is on the other side or you're talking to someone, you've got to use that hook line. And then once you hook it in, then they'll, do you know what I mean by that?
Absolutely. So what I like about the hook line, this is the attention kind of piece.
You've got to do that in the beginning.
So it's not like, oh, hi, I'm here today to talk about what's happening in the marketplace.
You lost me on there quickly. You already lost me in that.
Yeah.
If you were dynamic and said, in the marketplace today, there was 100% of properties sold on Zoom or whatever it was, I go, oh, wow, how's that happen? And then you can go, good morning, everyone. Hi, it's Michael. And I go, well, I would be completely engaged.
Yeah. So
dynamic opening.
So format, it's a little bit like, baking a cake. You've got to get the order of putting the ingredients in. There's no point putting the eggs in after you take it out of the oven. So it's not going to work.
Tastes awful. I'm not eating that.
It's not good. So the order is really important to and I think one of the things I loved about what you talked about earlier is what's the hook and how am I going to actually launch into this conversation?
Yeah.
Probably the other thing that's super important is trusting yourself in the middle, because you know your content, you know what you're talking about. But you know, you saw here with this one here, my very simple mind map allows me to get into the flow of what covering off on, and then being really clear on the action points at the end you want people to take. Is that fair to say?
Well, I don't know if you remember at school, like, I mean, now I'm probably showing my age, but I remember at school doing English and my English teacher talking about the introduction, the beginning of every paragraph as a sentence structure, and the conclusion. So you had your essay. Essay was a skeleton. So when I would be talking like that, I'd have my intro, but I have all my points, and then you have your rounding up. I think that it's really important in these platforms like the Zoom and the online presentations, because they're going to become fiercely competitive now in this environment we're in now. Yeah. And everything that's going on now. I think it's very important that if you are going to do that, yes, it's nice to free flow conversation, but honestly, Michael, before anyone was to go up and get onto anything, they have to practice it. They have to have what you've done there, a mind map or a skeleton or a structure next to it, like an auto prompter, because at the end of the day, it is information that is on video that can be recorded by other people and can be used. And it's something where you want to be proud of what you're doing and practice. Before I do anything live, even when I do hi, it's Sarah. Hi, everyone. It's Sarah. I'm at home. I'm making chocolate brownies. They're my healthy twist. Even if I do an Instagram story, I don't do a live story. I will film it first and I'll go, no, that wasn't good enough. And then I'll bring it back and I'll go, too much waffling, truncate it. What are your points? Get them across, bring it down. I think that even with a casual conversation, you still need to practice it. You still need to engage, back it up, and then round and close it off.
Yeah, yeah. Did you call that roundup before? So an intro, key points, and then a roundup, or a wrap up?
Round it up and conclude, or just you know what it is. I actually call it a takeaway. Every single bit of information. So when I practice information with before a segment, for example, I have a producer and I'll say to her, oh, what are we going to do this week? And she'll say this, that, and the other, bang, bang, bang. And I say, well, what's my takeaway? Everyone needs a takeaway. If you give people a takeaway, a tip on buying real estate or a tip on cooking or a tip on presenting, what's the takeaway from what you and I are doing now?
Yeah, great.
People need to, and so I always say to people when they saw me on TV, oh, Sarah, I saw your segment the other day. And I say, what'd you learn? And they'll say, oh, I love mushrooms. I didn't know mushrooms could generate vitamin D. Now that means success to me. If they get 2 takeaways, I'm good.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Takeaway, because then they'll come back, Michael.
Yeah. Now, Sarah, you just made a really good point, really super fast before, but I just want to come back to it. So how do you get good at video? And by the way, some people don't like the way they look in video. They don't like the way they sound on video. It's sort of like, hey, get used to it. This is how you look and how you sound.
You got it.
People, you might not look like this to yourself, but this is how you actually sound and look to other people. So get over with it and get on with it. Yeah, is that fair to say?
So often people will go, oh, I can't stand how I look. Oh, I hate the sound of my voice. And you know what? It's just to you, like I look at myself when sometimes I've done things and I've presented something, I've gone, oh, I can't cope, I can't even deal with it. And then other people will go, oh, I loved your hair and makeup. You look magnificent. Oh, I love that. And you know, what you see and what someone else sees, it's completely different. You have to be proud of your voice. You have to be proud of who you are, and you have to own it. That's a really
important point. So bring you into it, not in a I'm sorry, but in a owning it and owning it.
Embrace it. It's you. Yeah. Love yourself. Be proud of it. No, who cares? The
other point that I really wanted to highlight is the fact that you know, like in terms of going live, that may or may not be something that someone wants to do straight away. But the alternative is to do lots of recordings, having a look at those recordings. You know, I think it's fair to say we're probably all our own worst critic.
100%. So definitely.
If we could sort of let go of that a little bit and just be a bit kind to ourselves. But look, if the people who are tuning in, if they watched a video if they did a video every day for the next 30 days, guaranteed in 30 days time, they're going to be so much better at doing video.
That's exactly it. I've practiced, and I've practiced and practiced and practiced and thought, too much waffling, cut that back, bring that back. And I'll record myself before I do a video a few times, and I'll do a few different options. And often when I'm doing a video, I'll do like you did. I'll just get my key points down and I'll blue tack it down to the bottom of the phone, and of things that I really want to teach people or I want people to know. But it is incredibly important you've got to practice these things. Every single person that is doing stuff. Like when I started presenting, I went and got a coach for a little bit just to make sure I could understand a little bit about that environment. So I did get someone to help me a little bit learn about different things. But you learn on the way, but I think you learn by critiquing yourself, and you have to be happy with what you put out there. And I just think everyone's doing it. Don't be ashamed. And one thing I say to myself about things like video and people being nervous, and you can't let your fear of this platform hold you back in life, because it is where the future's going. And I always say, what would 85-year-old Sarah say to 47-year-old Sarah? If 47-year-old Sarah said, I'm not going to do that live TV. I'm too nervous. I can't do live TV. 85-year-old Sarah, because 85-year-olds really don't care about too much, should say, oh, stop it and go and do it. No one cares, You've got to remember, you've got to get it into perspective. We're all human. We're all doing our best. And I just think once for anyone out there who is in this kind of platform, who is nervous or whatever, I work with people with anxiety as a nutritionist with their diet, but we talk about anxiety too. And in fact, I had a patient this morning, we were talking about anxiety, about her walking into her TAFE classroom because she was so, anyway, it's a whole long story. And I just said to her, but once you do things a little bit and you practice, and trust me, everyone practices, and you achieve it, you feel fabulous.
Yeah.
It's a great feeling of success. You feel great when you've achieved things like that.
Yeah. Hey, so I know you're on a bit of a time frame, so thanks so much for contributing into our network and our family. It was great to have you at Kickstart, but this has been fabulous, because this is something that we see you doing on Channel 7, and doing it very, very easily and with grace and style. And it's great to hear some of the things that happen behind the scenes. It's also neat, I think, that sometimes we see someone doing something that makes it look really easy. We assume it's always been easy for them, but the fact that you practice it, the fact that the night before you're clear on what you're going to present, you actually go through the takeaways, develop out the key points, work out what's that intro going to be that hooks people in straight away, gets their attention, gets their interest, gets some desire going. And then you also give me some practical action points to take away. It's just absolutely awesome.
Thank you. No, thank you very much. It's a lot of work behind the scenes.
Yeah. And guys, the only last one that I'm going to throw in there, too often I'm connecting in with people that haven't got their sound set up or haven't got their image set up. And one of the things that I'm a bit hot on, you could see my camera is at eye height here, or pretty close to eye height. So versus if it was, here, it's sort of like, I'm looking different. And if it was lower than that too, I'd sort of be in this mode of there. So, and for women, that can be, too revealing, that you don't necessarily want to have, depending on obviously what kind of video you're wanting to produce, I guess.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning to go there, but that's
yes.
I just think that camera height's a simple one to get right. I've got 3 big Kahuna books underneath my laptop to get it at that particular height. So it doesn't need to be anything fancy. It can just be something that gets that into that mode. Sarah, any last points you'd like to wrap and reinforce with?
Look, I just think for anyone who's going to start using this platform, it's wonderful. Once you get into the flow of this kind of media, I think Zoom or even FaceTime or doing presentations with a little bit of, it's always daunting in the beginning, but with a little bit of practice and time under your belt and knowing your content, knowing how you're going to deliver it. Also, if it's an open environment where people can ask you questions, like if it's one of those Zoom conference calls that you're a speaker at, always making sure that you go through every possible question people can ask you about that. I do that. I write a list of possible questions of things like, you know, it might be, "Oh, how many milligrams are in vitamin C, or what's the recommended daily intake of whatever I'm doing." I always prep myself for what questions people can ask me, because that's another thing. People, when they're doing things like, even like I've seen my children on it, just like the Zoom conference, if they're doing it and someone might ask questions, always knowing that, and try to avoid, if you feel you're doing, if like when you're talking, to avoid things like the is a really important thing, because if I hear and so always, if you to learn, if you're feeling that moment of to actually just pause and slow down your speech, okay, just to slow it down a bit if you're feeling a little bit. But when you know when you hear it's sort of, it lacks, and it lacks a professionalism, or it lacks a delivery, or it just doesn't. Do you know what I mean by that?
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to pause rather than put an in there, because is effectively a pause.
Yeah.
What it looks like, though, is you may not have clarity and act together. Hey, just a really, really simple point that you brought up there is, what are the potential questions that the audience or that people could want to know about?
Yeah.
So for those of you who are going to do a property update of what's happening in your marketplace or what's occurring that, you know, you've known you've needed to do for a while but been resisting it, you could go, okay, I've just had these 4 conversations with buyers or sellers or landlords or tenants. Let me now bring that into a conversation and get into the mode of, well, that's in their thinking, or that's what they're wondering about. Let me address what they're wondering. So you're actually talking with the person and talking to the concern or the question or the issue or something they'd be truly interested in. Yeah. So that was a really cool point that you just brought up, to shift it around to being relevant for that person.
And the other thing I want to say is never apologize for, never say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm nervous," or "I'm sorry, I'm new to this." Never apologize for any of that, because you're there, you're enthusiastic, you're being your best self in your whatever your profession is. You're there, you're giving, you're working, you're not, you know, and I just think never apologize for what you're doing. And and you know what, every mistake you make, you will go home and scrutinize yourself for. And I tell you right now, you won't do it again, because you'll practice yourself out of it. And mistakes only make us grow.
Yeah. And yeah, everything is hard before it's easy. So if people are feeling this is hard, it's just because that they're getting used to this new format. And there's so many tools, so much learning out there. But the most important thing is to get started with it. Do pre-record. So, you know, this has got a 4K video camera in it. You know, they used to be those big ones that would sit on the shoulders. Now they're here and built into this. So it's fantastic. And like I said before, guys, if you don't have something as simple as this to be able to do video, then grab hold of it. There's also the moving ones for those of you doing you know, walkthroughs of properties. You know, have one of those ones that allow you to do the walkthrough and have it smoothly, as opposed to jumping around.
Can I just add to that? There's those walkthrough cameras that you can actually put a harness on, and then you stick a stem into the base of the harness. So therefore, and then you just hold it, so it's very still, instead of it going like that. They used one of those on me last weekend with 7, and then I was looking at the holster that you can buy, so you've actually got it sitting in there, and you can get a much better quality.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome for you to share these insights. Thank you so much. And we're wishing you well on your journey, both with 7 and also your practice. You're obviously redefining how that's going to work and pivoting in a different kind of a way. Yes. We're doing the same as a network, and our clients are as well. So this is going to add, you know, even more value than when we originally talked about it in February, because it's the new way. It's a new way of.
Who even knew? Like, we were going to do it in February, and now we ended up doing it now, and it's just got so much more value and meaning now than it did then.
It does.
Right.
I wish you well. Stay safe, stay healthy, and as you always do, be super kind. And thank you so much for your generous contribution to the network.
Thank you for having me. It was my absolute pleasure. Anytime. I wish you guys all well too. Stay safe. Okay. Bye. Bye.